Hey guys, Sam here from MTG Bazaar. Today I've got a new deck for you using the Omen Pass, aka Spider-Man, aka I don't know what's going on cards. We have some early access into the client. There's not a ton of matches happening on there. I was trying to get you 3 decks, but I think that we got good footage of one. It's a red-black deck. It is using a lot of the Legends Matter stuff combined with some of the new Mayhem cards. Hopefully you guys really enjoy it. Okay, guys, what we have here is the red-black Spider Legends deck. It was an archetype I was really interested in, primarily because red-black has had bad mana for the last little bit of the format. So it opens up a couple of combinations of cards that don't exist due to there being both no Shock Duel and no Fast Land that exist in the enemy colors only at the moment. I thought that Multiversal Passage would add a lot to this deck. So I think that is what we found. I really enjoyed it. It's also a deck that gets to use Restless Events quite well. A card that, despite the pseudo card advantage of being able to loot with it, hasn't seen a lot of play in Standard so far. But with the new Mayhem cards, I think really has a nice little niche here that it fills in the color combination. So what we have is we have Legends on one. So Cecil and Tiny Bones, just to fill that early curve. Apologies for the not collected part of this, but it's just early access and that's sort of how they're doing it these days. And those combine well with Tiny Bones Joins Up. So Tiny Bones Joins Up, a card that saw a little bit of play here and there, mostly in the Pixie decks to pick it up and put it back down, making your opponent discard again and again and again. But the Legends and the crime element of it never really came into focus with this card so far, and I think it has a good, little niche in this deck. So the good things about this card is that it allows you to target any number of players with both abilities. So you can actually mill yourself with this. You have to lose a life, but if you really need more cards in the graveyard to fire up a Fear of Missing Out, for example, that is an option that you have. You can also make yourself discard a card, which is actually funnily meaningful here. So you and your opponent may discard a card, up to your choice. So on 3, you can discard a Desecrax, which is Carnage in the new Spider-Man set, but in an Open Pass it's Desecrax. And you get to get this out on 3 mana instead of 4. So 1 for the Tiny Bones, 2 for the Mayhem cost. Pretty useful. You get to get another creature back as well, which is really cool. To go along with that little synergy package, we have Ruzik, which is Ultimate Green Goblin. In the Spider-Man set, it also allows you to discard a card every turn. We've got this sub-theme of making treasures, and that combines really well with Magda. So Magda, whenever you commit a crime, you make a treasure. And then you can sack 3 treasures to create a 4/4 dragon. Pretty powerful ability, so long as you can get to that level of treasure tokens. The other card that combines really well with the treasure tokens and the general mill ourselves sort of game plan is Garland, Knight of Cornelia, which is from the Final Fantasy set. So this is a 2-mana 3/2, and again, it's a legend, so that helps, but it's also got the Dragon's Rage channel of text. So whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you surveil one. Not a bad way to get Delirium on, or just to get some card selection towards, those grindy games and finding what you would like. So in addition to that, it's got a return from the graveyard to the battlefield ability, so you can return it from your graveyard flipped to the battlefield for 3 black, black, red, red, so 7 in total, and it's just a 5/5 flyer that is a demon for, theme reasons, I'm assuming, and when it dies, you put it on the bottom of your library. So not the most efficient card in the world there. 7 mana is quite tough to get to, usually with these aggro decks, and once you're there, you're normally pretty dead, if that's the case. But with a few treasures, you could get to 5 mana pretty reasonably, and you have a couple of treasures as well, that would give you a way of doing that ability pretty reasonably. As mentioned, we have the sub-delirium element of having some Fear of Missing Outs in here. I would probably like to put some Violent Urges in as well. I decided not to play them yet today, but that's mostly because I know how that card performs already, and we'll find the slots that we cut to fit those in later. So Fear of Missing Out, just a great card. Another discard enabler. So on 4, it goes well with Desecrax. On 5, it can go okay with a Ruzik. But I think more than anything, it's really just to find you some velocity through the deck and get you extra combat steps, because who doesn't like those? The other 2 cards, old favorites of the format. So Tersa Light Shatter, we all know what this does at this stage, and Unstoppable Slasher. Hopefully you know what this does at this stage. Very powerful card. One of the things about this color combination is the ability to play both Fear of Missing Out and Unstoppable Slasher, and I didn't want to compromise on that to play the entire Mayhem package. But luckily, we played against some opponents who were trying that out and doing the whole you know, Mayhem first, second, and last sort of thing. And I think this was a little bit more optimal into those sort of mirrors, but we're better at playing on board with these the 2-for-1 body of Unstoppable Slasher as well as the clock on it. So I think that there's probably a happy medium between those two archetypes as well if you were going to have a look at that more Mayhem heavy build. The other couple of cards that we have here, bit of Triumph, does the discard stuff, as well as just kind of kills anything, so pretty good ability in this deck. And then also Wild Ride. So Wild Ride you can use from the graveyard for the Harmonized cost. It also just gives things haste, which is actually pretty fantastic in this deck because you don't have a lot of access to it naturally. So, you know, Tosa's got haste, but nothing else does. And then having Wild Ride combined with an Unstoppable Slasher is actually really powerful. So the Unstoppable Slasher will get in for 5. Let's say they're on 20. Suddenly they go to 15, and then the trigger hits, and then they're on 7. So they take 13 damage from that attack alone. So that gives you quite a solid amount of burst potential off the Unstoppable Slasher. We've already dealt with fear of missing out with haste in the format, but I'll tell you what, it's not worse than it was. It's still pretty good. So I like that as well. This deck performed pretty well. I was actually really, really happy with how this behaved in the games, and they're coming up next. So stick around, check those out, and after those, what we're going to get to is some of the cards I played against that opponents were playing that I thought were really powerful and are worth looking into. Even though I didn't have time, they're things to keep on your radar. So stick with us for that, and or just move around in the video timeline if you'd like. And thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you soon. All right, we tried to play some best of 3. We couldn't get a match, so here we are in best of 1. Hopefully that works out okay. And anyway, let's give it a go. So we get to go first. We have a couple of Tiny Bones and a Tiny Bones joins up, as well as our Desecrex and a Wild Ride. I think I'm gonna just keep this. I think we'll start on a Tiny Bones, most likely. What a theme deck. How good's that? I think I want to offer our opponent the largest chance of interacting with the Tiny Bones, which is why I'm playing it on turn 1. We only have 2 in the deck, so I think it's better than mulling anyway, because the hand's fine, but yeah. Okay, let's see what Joins Up does here. So they've got a Godless Shrine. Yes. Any number of players. I mean, this could actually potentially be interesting with Desecrex, right? I could see Tiny Bones Joins Up target both of us as a turn 3 play to get this out of turn early, which is pretty cool. So they have a Lunar Convocation. So Bats of some description. We'll just coin that for now. An additional Lunar Convocation. Okay, so we can cast the Lunar Convocation if we want. It only matters if I gain and lose life though, so there is the potential for that to be somewhat ineffective for us. The other thing we can do though is we can Tiny Bones and then Desecrex. We're not getting any value off the Desecrex, but it's still an early 4/3, which I don't hate. Let's add red, and do we want to pay the life? I think that we do. I want to just try this plan because I think it's pretty sweet. So any number of target players. Yeah, I'm sure. Nice. And we'll mill them 1. Again, you can choose to mill yourself with Tiny Bones Joins Up as well, so it's not a bad little Delirium enabler, but you have to pay the life, so it just depends on your context. But there will be some matches where that's a good option for you. The house grows hungry. Hungry houses. Okay, so we can potentially get one of their things back or play a Fear of Missing Out of our own. It's a bit interesting here. So what's this second thing do? Each player may discard a card. Each player who doesn't loses 3 life. I think that I'd rather just have the Fear of Missing Out. And we'll keep the Wild Ride in hand just in case we want to get the aggro started. I think this is pretty good. We've got the Restless Vents on now. An additional 5 damage isn't ever that bad. So I'll just lose the 3 life. I think they're a little bit happy to lose 3 life, but that's okay as well. Okay, so we're going to go get a legend. With a cocoon keeper, with our cocoon keeper. So that is the black and white, Mr. Inverted, whatever it is. I can't remember. Again, I'm not exactly a Spider-Man person. All the same though. So we can attack with the Restless Vents. We don't think we have a land in the graveyard, so I think attacking with the Restless Vents is better than getting a card back from them again. Interesting that we've turned that down every time so far, but... so let's do that. They're going to exile our graveyard anyway, so we might as well put them under a bit of pressure. Sure. Decline again. So they're in a pretty answer or die mode at the moment. If they don't do anything, I mean, if they play a creature, we can play our Magda, but looks like they're just going to concede that one. So our opponent didn't do too much there, but that's okay. We can allow them the grace of assuming they didn't get it together quite quickly. That 7-drop, the white black 7-drop. I still can't remember his name. Inverted Polarity, something like that. Again, not a Spider-Man guy. It seems like a really good generic reanimate threat because it does good stuff against both aggro and against control. If you can get your life down, if you can get your opponent's life total down a little bit, you can draw cards equal to the difference of life lost, which is good against your opponent if they are, a control deck. It's also good against your opponent because you get to switch your life total with mono red, for example. Okay. It seems like we don't have a lot going on, but we are on the draw, which makes me want to keep anyway. I think I will. Hopefully we'll just find some threats off the top. We're playing that card. Hemosymbic Might. And I might kill it. So they're going the Multiversal Passage on green and Scavenging Ooze, which is fair enough. I think here we're just going to Starting Town and kill it. We're going to pay the 3 life here. Just keep them off board for now. Do what we can to do that while we wait for a creature of our own. Okay, so the Innkeeper's Talent, really good turn for them. Going to play this Restless Vents tapped. And I think we're going to do the Tiny Bones Drones up as well. Okay, so they're playing the Scarlet Spider Ben Riley, I believe. Boris the Spider Rider. Boris does look like he's a lot of fun. Okay. So we can play this now. It does go down in value when we don't get something back. And this is Ward 1 at the moment, right? So I think what I would like to do is just to... We'll pay the life again. We'll just kill this. Again, just keeping them off board. And we'll name red. And have it enter tapped here. Okay. Excuse me. This is interesting. So we can Unstoppable Slasher and give it haste. There's no point where they can interact with this Unstoppable Slasher dying with the Scavenging Ooze. So I think this is probably the best way to get pressure out. Can close the game very, very quickly this way. So this would represent a damage of 11, I think, more or less. So... Okay, they just take it. Go to 5. So we'll take a hefty hit back here. We'll see what their follow-up is. Another Boris. Now this gives them the option of interacting with the Unstoppable Slasher, and we'd prefer they didn't do that. So I think what we'll do instead is just play this Discrax for no value, which is okay. It'll block out the Boris well enough, or you know, I really want to get this board back to a place where the Unstoppable Slasher is the primary threat. So let's do this, and we'll hold the land. And we'll, you know, drain them one. Now, next turn they can't do the same thing that they did this turn as well, which is useful for us. Just because we'll have 3 threats. Okay. Hemosymbic Might, very good on this board state. Good on a lot of board states, let's be honest. Okay, so you're just going to offer me this trade. I think I take it. I take a couple of damage for our efforts, but I think that's okay as well. Unfortunately, we're going to keep growing this Scavenging Ooze while nothing else is happening, but this Unstoppable Slasher is doing a good job of holding it in check as well. I think we're just going to keep that land as well. Just for a potential Tersa. Keen-Eye Curator as well. That's actually really bad news for us. Okay, if I were them, I would have attacked there, to be honest. Not that I'm unhappy that they didn't. And a Multiversal Passage. I'm going to play a land here just so I can still activate the vents on defense if I need to. Looks like we're against the Asian Avenger, which I think is Goldfish Creator, if my memory serves. Okay, this is effectively a 7/7 now, so they get to force me to block with the Slasher here either way, and then eat it. So we need something off the top pronto. Yeah, this is the correct line for sure. I don't think we have any outs set. All right, good games. GG's. Our first defeat. I think we just drew a few too many lands off the top there. We were in a pretty commanding position, but I also kept a bit of a risky one, I think, in terms of not having enough pressure to take advantage of that disruption. So, possible that that was a mole. But also possible we just got unlucky. So there's no way of knowing sometimes. Okie doke. So we got some tools here, which is good. In our Tiny Bones theme deck. Let's start with the Pickpocket. Great art on this Goblin. I really like it. Okay, looks like Mardu Mana and Seam Rip. Not a card that we can deal with once in play, so that's gone for good, I think. I'm going to chuck the Blazemire Virgin. I'm going to hold the Tiny Bones Jones up just in case we want it to get this out next turn. Seems like they've got a decent amount of disruption here. I'm just going to take the cheaper Desecrax. Haven't really found the sequence we were looking for with Desecrate so far, but that's just what can happen early on. I think we're playing enough creatures for it though, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. They're playing Pain for All. Okay, dear opponent, you're great. That's so awesome. What a card. Okay, so we have a Ruzik here. That's super interesting. We're going to attack first because there's no real reason not to. I guess there is the potential line that we could have played Ruzik pre-main and milled ourselves with the Tiny Bones joining up, trying to hit a Wild Ride. I think I might actually do this here. Don't sweep me, bro. Ooh, okay. Horizon Splicer. Conius? Maybe? Exile to one target, non-land permanent up to one target non-land permanent card from a graveyard. When it dies, put him on the bottom of his owner's library. If you do, return the exiled card to their owner's hands. Okay, so we get our guy back, which is nice. So they get their Pain for All back as well, which is really interesting. That's not a bad way. This is a pretty good tempo tool. 5 mana 4/4, I'm not normally on board for, but it does a lot to the board state and hand state of the cards. Still 4 more. No target for their Pain for All still by the looks of that. Let's get this Restless Vents in. Let's just do you this time. They're playing Ketramos. Really interesting card this. Having to discard cards every turn is a big cost, but making treasures every turn is also really nice. So our opponent was short a few creatures to get their deck working there, so we'll take it, but be cool to see them again in this queue and see what the deck looks like when it's actually firing on all its cylinders and all that. Fire Shoes, hello. I'm just saying here, and I know that he can't hear me, but we love your work, Fire Shoes. You're doing great stuff on sharing deck lists and creators, and great job. Okay, so a bit more of a traditional curve in this one. Interestingly enough, this deck does have the potential to deal itself like a lot of damage, and that can be an advantage. So there's cards like The Last Ride, which haven't gotten play so far, but also cards like Cecil, which, really want you to get down to 10 just to get that flip. So we can go down to 13 this turn if we want. Do we want, is the question. I think I want to. I think it's more fun. I also like that it leaves us in a position where they need to kill our Cecil relatively quickly now, which might save a piece of removal for these guys. Esper Origins, okay. So it looks like Fire Shoes is going pretty big here. Craterhoof Behemoth, the best art. Objectively the best art. I don't think there's any room for debate on that one. A Magda. I don't think that's doing a lot for us right now. Let's just attack with both, see how they go. Okay, so Cecil flips. They go to 7. I'm 4 mana. What can this deck do? I don't know. Let's play a Ruzik though. potentially could sweep, but they would only have Terratide on 4, I think, so it would only be for 2. They need to get to 4 damage, or, you know, minus. Volatile Fault. I wonder if they're reanimating the Crater Hoof at some stage. So they're getting the flashback on this. Quite a good card. 4/4 Saga. Gain a couple of life. Draw a card. Pretty solid value. I'm going to get rid of Magda here. It's not doing a lot on this board state. Okay, that's a very good draw. Pick your poison, my friend. GG's. Oh, I see what they're doing as well. Okay, so they're playing this card, which is really sweet. So Cavero, Mind Bitten, it is some version of Spider-Man, because there's only about 40 in the Spider-Man set. But it enters as a copy of a card in the graveyard that you exile. Doesn't target though, which is interesting. And becomes a 4/4 Spider-Human Hero addition to its other types. And when you do, you exile the card that you picked. So it's a delay trigger, not a target. So that's interesting, just for interaction reasons. But this is going to be a Crater Hoof a lot in this deck, but look at this. If that's what Fire Shoes is going for there, which is pretty good. Like a 4-mana Crater Hoof. Who cares if it's a 4/4? The original's only a 5/5 in the first place anyway. Alright guys, so it looks like we got some best of 3. Hell yeah. So we're playing the red-black deck again. And just giving you guys a look at the best of 3 for it. It's going to be an expensive hand in terms of life, but I think we can do it. Alright, let's pay 2 life, put a Tiny Bones out there. As much as Mako is like a pretty impressive threat, also would be good in these sort of decks if you went a little bit more turbo. I think that what I'm really interested in is whether or not it's going to mill cards here. And because we start with the Tiny Bones, if it does want to mill cards, then we've got the good option to get stuff back. Quint's Insight. So at the beginning of your first main phase, discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, this enchantment deals 1 damage to each opponent. I think it's like something about the Green Goblin in the Spider-Man art. I really like it. I can't remember the exact card name, but you know, it's got a demonic looking Green Goblin shadow in the art, if you guys can find it. Let's just start with attack from the Tiny Bones. Looks like they're okay with the trade, which we are also okay with. And we're just going to ditch a Multiversal Passage here. Which is Desecrex discarded with this, and then they'll get it back for just 2, and they'll get back their Mako as well as dealing 1. Whew, that's hot stuff. Okay, so I think we're just going to go for the Slasher here. Next turn, I'm probably going to combine our own Desecrex with the Bitter Triumph to get rid of, I imagine, their one or something else. This has to attack, so it's not the best value. I think with this effect, obviously you're just playing this card because it's good with your other cards. It's not the reason you're doing it, and I think that's totally fine. But in general, I think the reason that you want to play this card is to get back some of these cards with ETBs or attack triggers like the Inti or whatever. But it looks like they've got a nice little engine going, so I'm gonna just not block. I'll take 3 life, but then it dies anyway. All right, so this one's gonna be red. Yes, we're gonna pay life. Go all the way down to 10. Okay, let's discard and kill their Desecrex. Discard our own Desecrex. Do we almost have... So we've got instant sorcery land. So this is a bit of a change. Nice little traditional aggro plan here. So we could Tragic Trajectory to kill the Kivney and then attack with both and the Unstoppable Slasher again because we'll have Delirium. I think even still, we'd prefer to just offer this trade, get this Desecrax into play. Okay, so they go down to 7. It's pretty good for us. And we'll get Tiny Bones back. Tiny Bones in these sort of mirrors, very good. Very, very good. That little combo as well of Quint's Insights with an Inti in play, very cool. And then Skittering Kitten, which is a spider. Of some description. So it's haste, discard a card, sacrifice this creature, draw a card. So, you know, it's like an instant innate in a lot of senses, got haste instead of manas. But when you're getting value from your discards, suddenly this is a way to cheat on mana, as well as a way to keep a card equality and put cards in the bin. I'm really enjoying these really much more all-in variants of the same deck we're playing. I think it's a really interesting way to take it. Attack with everyone. So what does that mean? So that's 5, 8. So I can't block the way that I would like to. So if I take this 5 and block here, then that's 8, and I die there as well. So I think I'm pretty priced into blocking here, and either on the Inti or again on the Lava-born Goblins. That would prevent 4, so 2, 5, 7. That would keep us alive. And then we deal 5, and then they'd go to 1. But a legendary creature would kill them. So there's something else we can get back there that makes that worth it as well. So 3, yeah, no, it doesn't matter. Let's just do this. We'll leave them with the Lava-born Goblins. That's okay. We're not going to survive another attack anyway. Alright, and then we get to Tragic Trajectory this. Get our extra combat step and close it out. Alright. Let's go to sideboard. Now, in this sideboard, I've got a couple of nice ones. So Kazi Revenant's pretty good here. Strategic Betrayal, I think, is actually very good here, but you don't get the timing to exile the Mayhem creatures, so it's more to just reduce the size of the bin for their Desecrax. And I think Revenant and Strategic Betrayal for Desecrax and just generalized aggro is sort of where we want to be. Is Tiny Bones joins up good against this deck? I feel like they really built around discarding a bunch of their own cards anyway. Reducing their options in hand is still nice, even if it's not excellent. I think I'm going to kill a couple of Terses, and then the Tiny Bones joins up. I think we're the yeah, I know that MTGA. Thank you. I think we're the mid-range version of this plan, so let's act like it. Play a little slower. As much as I like to, we can't keep this. This is tough. I really don't want to go to 5. It's a pretty miserable hand though, so we'll just have to hope it pans out. So they've got a Mako. Alright, let's just pay the 2 life here. Given our hand, we can't afford to take a heap of damage early because we have nothing to race with. Yeah, that play was good last turn. Let's do it again. An additional bit of triumph. Skitter kidder. Don't think we'll be killing it, so... So we got both bit of triumphs. We also got the option of blocking with Restless Fence on board. Okay, so then he hit us with the big guy. 3 mana 5 for haste is not a bad rate. I'll say that. We could probably afford to discard a card there, but I do want to have some number of cards in hand for the Restless Vents. Do we activate that now? I think probably not, though. As we both stare at each other longingly. Alright, we're probably just going to get this removed, but that's okay. Yep. It's totally fine. I've still got the mana to keep up our bit of triumph, so the downside is not quite as bad as it was the turn before. It seems this might be a great minds think alike. I'm actually just going to ditch a card here, though. Given we've lost our Restless Vents now, so we don't have as many uses for the additional card. A Cecil. A Braid is fair enough. I'm sort of interested to see how many black sources you could get into a deck like this. So we're all sort of doing the same thing in terms of having a reasonable balance between black and red mana. But if you're in this hyper discard version, having Arch Enemy's Charm might be a big difference. Not only do you get your guys back from the graveyard, which is kind of important in these sort of mirrors, but you also get, you know, the options to put a couple of counters and lifelink on as a removal spell, so the floor is pretty high. I'm not sure. Could be worth looking at. Does this exile itself when it flips? No, it just transforms. Okay. Oh, in that case, we're just going to block here. The other option is it attacks and we lose life anyway. So we'll take our somewhat equal trade, although they had the other NT, so that's pretty bad for us. Unstoppable Slasher, big deal. A nice little 2-for-1 card. Stitch's Wings. Answers if it was cast from your graveyard, you attach it to target creature you control. There's a Mayhem flying haste thing. Although they're just using it to kill the Unstoppable Slasher properly, which I think is a fair call. So it's Mayhem 2? It's not bad. I think the front rate is not good, but the back rate's pretty good. I'll leave them with the smaller and legendary creature. A Skitter Kidder. And a bit of Triumph. It's a bit of a judgment call here what we target with this bit of Triumph. So, okay, so I got a fear of missing out. Good top deck. Don't really want them to get the Inti going. Seems somewhat problematic with a double combat step next turn. Nice little interaction there as well. Well, we're dead anyway, but we'll let them attack because it's polite. All right, game 3. Both of us were pretty low on resources there. I think for us, I do want the Terzas back if the games are going to play out in that way. There's no way of knowing if that's going to be the case for this last game, but it could be. The question is, do we want all these strategic betrayals when we're on the play? I think they're a bit better on the draw. We'll go down to 1. Just looking for a good curve as always. What's a friend got to do for a good curve, you know? So we'll do black and we'll not pay life. Interestingly, like this is a very painful hand in some ways, but it's also not going to cost us much life, given the color requirements. Another starting town, okay. Oh, poor Ruzik. You're such a bad guy. They not have another land? They do. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So they hit their land. And we got the Skitter Kidder. And they're making their 5-4. And then a concession. Okay. Well, we'll take it. We won that one. I think the Power of Unstoppable Slasher is still so good that I may be upsetting some people by playing it, but I don't know. The card's one of the reasons to play black, I think. I think playing black-red, one of the good reasons is you get both Unstoppable Slasher and Fear of Missing Out. So I'm pretty reticent not to play with them. Okay, so I promised to look at some of the cards that really impressed me today when I was playing against them, but I didn't get to cast as many times as I would like personally. And here they are. So we have 3 in web cards. 2 of them sort of fit into the same archetype. You could put all 3 in the same archetype, but I think they kind of do different things. And the last one is a bit of a reanimator threat. So let's talk about these 2 here that fit together, these 2 white ones. So we'll pull them up nice and big so you can see them. So we have Yera and Oski, Weaver and Guide, which is a 3-mana 3/3. When it enters, look at an opponent's hand, then choose a card type other than creature. Spells of the chosen type cost 1 more to cast. Meaningfully, you can web this for 1. So 1 mana 3/3 with conditions met. It does a little disruption, not too much, not too little. And obviously that disruption goes away when it dies, but it's still an efficient body and something you can get out very cheaply. Combines very well with a lot of the other incentives we have for a lot of creatures entering the battlefield all at the same time. So you're picking up a creature, which is theoretically quite cheap. You're getting this into play, you're playing that other creature, and then if something requires 2 creatures to enter, you get that trigger. Maybe you're getting 3 creatures to enter, like for Halia from Edge of Eternity, which will also draw you another card, gain you some life, and suddenly we got a stew going. So I think that this card's actually pretty good. It is legendary, so it's a bit interesting, but in Web and Legendary has a little bit of an interesting interaction in that you can, if you have a thing to station or crew or saddle or whatever it is, make mana from for tapping. There's heaps of ways to tap a creature in this format. If you have that thing on board to do that with, what you can do is you can have two of these and just pick them up and put them back down off each other as well. So you're getting a look at your opponent's hand, that's nice, but in addition to that, you're also triggering all these other abilities on other cards. So if there is a ETB density deck, I think this might be a part of it. The other card which would be a part of it would be Son of the Silken Throne. So 4 mana 3/4 and an uncommon means that I think I probably just skipped over this when I was reading the spoiler. The in-web cost is 3 though. It's still not super cheap, but the effect is really, really good in board stalls. So at the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn, you draw a card and you gain 2 life. This sort of makes it a backup Hellier in the sense that you can have, they're both legendary, so you can have one of each instead of, one rotting in hand, for example. In addition to that, you're drawing 2 cards, you're gaining 3 life between the 2 of them, and you're really finding some incentives to go into that sort of density of small creatures entering sort of build, and then also finding some velocity after that to continue that sort of engine that you have in a deck like that. So I don't think it's a 4 of, but I think it's a lot better than I thought it was on initial blush, and I think it's something that you may want if you're going to build a deck in that direction. The other in-web card, Boris the Spider Rider. I know the Spider-Man name of this card, which is, I think it's Scarlet Spider Ben Reilly, because there's 2 different Scarlet Spiders in this set. I'm not a comic book guy, so maybe someone in the comments can let me know why that is. Maybe someone dies or something. I don't know. That would be cool though. Anyway, so it's a 3 mana 4/3, has in web for red and green, 1 red and green in the cost. Comes with trample natively, which is actually pretty meaningful now that we've lost Monstrous Rage, and it's not as easy to get trample onto creatures that you would want to. And if it was cast using its in-web cost, it enters with X +1/+1 counters, where X is the mana value of the return creature. So you can pick up and get ETBs again off this creature really well in decks that want that. So the example that I mostly saw was Fear of Missing Out's a good one. But there's a ton of them. You could get another trigger off Tersa later in the game. You can get another trigger off Terra Magical Adept. There's, there's things like Scrap Shooter. The list goes on, but there are actually a decent amount of enter battlefield effects in red-green, which is not usually the case, but there are in this format. And it also gets these counters to make it bigger. What that means as well is that if you had to cast this for its natural cost, so you pay a 3 mana 4/3, hey, it's not the most efficient thing in the world. It's still above rate. It's still pretty good. Very good turn 2 off the Llanowar Elf. If you can attack with that creature, so you attack with the first one, if you have another one in hand, it's not actually useless. You can web the new one back into play by picking up the old one. You'll get the old one back. They won't legend rule, and the new one will enter with 3 counters. So it ends up as a 7/6 trampler for 2 mana, which is, I don't need to tell you how above rate that is. That's pretty good. So a card that I'm really interested in. I think these and web cards are going to have a little bit of work to do in terms of what is the right amount of enablers that a specific one wants for its deck. This one may actually not need anything else because it's more in the aggro sphere, and the aggro sphere is about turning creatures sideways, so it should be fine. But there's a good chance that there's also a version of this which has a lot of enablers for in-web and plays a bunch of those cards and allows you to sort of cheat the mana curve quite a bit in that way. The last card I've got is very different, and I played against a very different deck that this was in, but one that I liked a heap, and it is Kavero Mind Bitten, 2 blue-black, 4/4 card. Super Spider Human Hero. It is some Spider-Man guy. Again, I'm not sure what card this is in actual Spider-Man, because this isn't a card that I was looking at before too hard, but I think I made a mistake by not doing it. So you may have it enter as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard, except his name is Gavero Mindbitten, and he's a 4/4 Spider Human Hero in addition to his other types when you do exile that card. So it doesn't target, it's sort of the clone text. So as it enters, you make the choice as the ability resolves. Fine, nice and easy. Now, it enters as that creature meaningfully. So you get all ETBs and all those sort of things. If you want to remove a potential target for a card like this, you have to do it while the spell itself is on the stack. So Kavera is on the stack. Now you can remove the Velgavoth or whatever it is, and then it enters, and then it gets to choose from any graveyard. So it's very hard to stuff this trigger. Maybe you can make it a little less, you know, you can remove some choices for your opponent, or your opponent can remove some choices for you, hopefully, and you'll still get something else out of this. Now, it's also got its own name. So what you can do is you can return something to the battlefield, and well, theoretically return it to the battlefield, but it is this guy instead. And this guy is going to be himself. So if you get that card back later, let's say with a Zombify, for example, then you can have 2 copies of the same legend. And that can get very strong very quickly. One of the decks we played against earlier, there's a Final Fantasy character. You'll have to forgive me for not knowing all these proper nouns, but it's a 5/5 that makes returns cards from your graveyard as 5/5 demons with haste and lifelink, I think. And you can have 2 of those out. This one can get back another one. So if you're doing that sort of stuff, you've got a really powerful reanimator game plan. The other important thing is that this allows you another 4-mana copy of a reanimate effect. So if we're trying to hyper reanimate things, part of the issue at the moment is that we only have 4 copies of Zombify available for us from Foundations. There is no card which is quite as good as that in terms of efficiency right now. So this allows you a backup copy of that, which means that we get to do this as a more reliable game plan. We've got plenty of looters on 3s, like Steamcore Scholar, Cure of the Risen Tide. There is a blue-black guy from Final Fantasy, again, the name I forget, which is also quite good. Those all allow us to, you know, draw and discard cards while also being creatures, so they can help these sort of plans. And we also have a lot of self-mill as well if we want to go down that route and go, you know, turbo into that. And, you know, if we get a turn 4 Velgavoth, even if it's a 4/4, it's requires 3 non-land permanents to be sacrificed in order to be able to kill the thing. And then once you start interacting with your opponent with a Velgavoth on board, you're starting to get all their spells. So the game can be over very quickly from there. And I think that is just a really strong option for a hyper reanimated deck. There is one other thing that I really like about this card, which is sort of invisible text on this a bit. It's that if there is no graveyards, there's no creatures in any graveyards, this is still a 4/4 for 4. So if you're playing in an environment where your opponent may have a rest in peace and you still haven't found an answer to it yet, maybe you'll find one eventually, but you know, they're playing a slow control game plan. The B option on this is quite a bad card, but it exists. At least there is one. Whereas the other reanimate effects, there's just no targets and they just, you know, they're blank. So I like that about it as well. Those are the cards that really stood out to me. You saw the ones that I read on, you know, my initial impression and made a deck out of, and I really liked that deck. That was a lot of fun. So let me know what you think. Let me know what cards you would change and how you would go about building the same sort of thing, and what you're looking forward to trying to beat Vivi with going into the next couple of months. Because I don't know, I'll be trying to beat it rather than join it personally. No hate to those who are enjoying Vivi. It's a very fun deck. But yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for joining us, guys. Drop a like, leave a comment. Make sure you follow all our socials and all our channels if you can. And thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys around soon.